Got my heat blanket. Got my tea. I got you. That's all the warmth I need. Hello, disclaimer, Craig here, to let you know that the audio/video that you are about to take in was not recorded on the Monday on which it was published. It was in fact recorded before the really bad power outage winter situation in the southern part of this country. And I talk a lot about winter in this, but I do not mention that because this was recorded before it. But I would like to mention it now and say that I hope everyone is okay. I just hope everyone can make it through this. Now let's go on with this blathering that I do about winter and about bullet journaling and about the YouTube subscriber system and the value of having interviews in my videos. It's a mixed bag this episode, but I hope you enjoy. Oh, I also happen to be wearing the same shirt. Don't let that mislead you. It was -9 this morning, but with wind chill it felt like -20 or something here in Wisconsin. Currently working on a video, why do people like living in cold places, I believe is what I'll call it, but it might change. And I've been doing a little research today about it, which I want to talk to you about. But first, let me let you know about bullet journaling because I haven't given you an update. I'm still doing it. So my next video is going to be about why do people like living in cold places, but the one after that is going to be about bullet journaling. And I took a week off. I kind of ignored it for a week because I just didn't have a whole lot that I needed to do last week, like a lot of pressing things that I needed to schedule. I did do things. It did exist. Then I went back to it yesterday, mapped out my week, and it feels good. Like it feels so much better to have it mapped out. I just have a better sense of how much break I can take. That's the main thing. How to comfortably turn off. I have it so well in my head and on paper when I have to turn on. You know what I'm saying? I'm noticing, perhaps because of the journaling, I'm not sure, my days always go better when I get up earlier and I exercise right away. If I wait till the middle of the day to exercise, I feel crappier if I haven't exercised. I don't know if it gives me more energy, it just makes me more comfortable. I don't know what it is. It reduces anxiety or stress or something. But I notice that when I exercise later in the day, it's worse. Because then in my head, I'm like, oh, I gotta exercise, I gotta do the thing, I gotta... We've kind of graduated onto more weightlifting stuff. It was like a lot of body weight stuff for a while. It's a lot more weightlifting stuff now, and it's hard in a new way. But it seems to be showing results. It is time to go to our sponsor. Speaking of doing stuff in the morning that's good, Morning Brew. It is a free daily newsletter, Monday through Saturday, business, tech, finance. If you're interested in those things, but you want to know it in a way that's fun and condensed rather than the endless doom scrolling, which I tend to fall into early in the morning and then it ruins my entire day, my daily practice of crying in a corner. Instead, I can be fed the information in an efficient, fun way and not have to spend so much money on tissue. And I learned things from a broad cross-section of everything that's going on. Well, for instance, I learned that Adidas is selling Reebok. I remember the Nike Reebok wars back in 1990, and now I don't hear much about Reebok anymore. They've been debauched. The point is, things don't slip past me as much because I'm getting a broad overview of what's happening because of this newsletter. And it's free, and it's good, and it's witty, and relevant, and ritty, and relevant. Words I just made up because I'm in such a good mood because of Morning Brew. You can click the link below and subscribe. It takes 15 seconds to subscribe, and about 5 minutes to read every day. Don't time it and come back to me and tell me I'm wrong, but it's approximate. Back to regular scheduled on the couch, Craig. Moving on to living in cold places. I've been doing a little research about Nordic countries because everyone's always like, well, they're rated highest on like certain happiness indices, but that it also kind of depends on how you define happiness. But I'm learning some things, like there's a lot of words that people have there's hygge in Norway, no, in Denmark, that is just sort of this mentality, this way of living that that's just all about comfort. It's all about lighting candles indoors, cozying up with a warm blanket. That's just sort of a general goal of comfort. There's that word, and then I've learned some other words. There's There's a word in Finland that means basically like pants drunk or underpants drunk. Can't remember what the word is. But it's basically you get in your underwear and you have a few drinks by yourself. That's a way to relax. It's just sort of a way to get rid of stress. And then there's one that's very interesting to me in Iceland, which is called Glugavador. Glugavador. Weather window, basically, which is looking out the window at beautiful weather that would be unpleasant to be in. But you have a nice warm cup of something, nice blanket, look out into the frozen tundra and enjoy it. There's a special kind of feeling, a special kind of coziness associated with that word. Which goes right into the whole point of the video is like, why do people like living in cold places? That would be one reason. That's a special feeling that you can only get doing that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be cold. It has to just be like unpleasant weather, because it could just be like a storm, I suppose. But that it's also kind of it would happen more often in a really cold place. But then there's the idea like, it's not necessarily true. Like, how would you define happiness? People are always talking about... I watched this video from Vice. I've been watching a lot of videos today. I've also started using the watch later function, which is interesting to me. I've never used it. All these years, I've never effectively used the watch later button on YouTube. Because I'm always worried I'm just going to fill it with videos and I'm never going to watch them. But... I was getting ready to exercise, and I've been watching. When I exercise, I've been watching shows. Like I watched for a while there. I was watching a little Burn Notice, because that's a good dumb show to turn my brain off. I watched oh shoot, what's it called? They're demon killing, two girls who are demon killers. It's a British show. No. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's like 6 episodes. I think it's on Netflix or Hulu or something. And I watched that show. I watched movies, various movies here and there. But I get to a point where I'm like, oh, what do I watch next? And then I have to sit there and research it. And I'm like, well, why can't I just have this thing that I automatically turn on to watch? I'm like, well, what about a YouTube channel that just updates daily? And then I asked Twitter, like, what are some YouTube channels that update daily that I could watch? And people gave me a lot of gaming channels and stuff, but I'm just not that interested in watching gaming channels. Not that I think there's anything wrong with them. That's just not what I want to watch. And I bet I could. Maybe there is a gaming channel out there I could watch that I'd love. I don't know. I am more interested in like gaming review channels, or channels that are like funny and edited, not just like watching someone play a game. But not necessarily. But then again, that's not really what I'm going to seek out. So then I'm like, well, why don't I just watch my subscriptions? So then I went to which I rarely do these days, and I think most people rarely just watch their subscriptions. I think the YouTube recommended engine really is what motivates people to watch things. Although most of the people who watch this channel, I think, are watching their subscriptions, because pretty consistent viewership here, and I thank you for that. But I have so many subscriptions and I don't watch all of them. But I thought, well, why don't I just figure out a way to autoplay all of my subscriptions? Clearly, I like something about these channels because I subscribed to them. So just throw them at me randomly, and maybe maybe it'll be an enjoyable experience while I exercise. And then I discovered there is no way to do it. Just through YouTube alone, there's no way to watch all of your subscriptions. There's no auto playlist, which I find disgusting. And then I found someone suggest, well, using the watch later button. So I went in to my subscriptions, and in my subscriptions, there were many videos that I didn't want to watch at that moment. But I went through the ones I did, and I hit watch later, and then boom, playlist. And then I exercised, and I watched a playlist of videos, and it was beautiful. So I finally figured out the use for the watch later button. It's a way to collect the videos from my subscriptions that I want to watch while I exercise. I mean, I could collect videos from other places too. But I find it, YouTube, why not have a way to autoplay your subscriptions? Maybe there is and I missed it, but I don't think there is. And I think it's because they value the recommended button and the trending page a lot more than subscription system. Back in the old days, the YouTube subscription system was right there on the front. It was the first thing you saw. It's like what you subscribed to will pop right up there on the front page. And then they buried it. They made it, there was like a home page and then a subscription page. You had to click away. As soon as they started doing that, my viewership started going down. And then it became, now there's multiple ways. It feels like it's even buried even more. And gradually my views went down as they devalued the subscriber system. It's probably because that's not the place that motivates people the most to watch. I don't watch all my subscriptions. I get sick of my subscriptions. I don't watch the same things over and over. The recommended system actually, I mean, it can be terrible at times. It has bugs, obviously, but most of the time I end up finding and watching things through that more so than through subscriptions, and finding great things that I was unaware of. YouTube's trying to manage all of the world's upload of everything all the time. And what's the best way to convey it all to a person? If it's just subscriptions, then no one's going to discover new things, you know? Or they'll more rarely discover new things. Is it better to have more people discovering new things all the time or not? I don't know. For me, it is. That's what I want to do most of the time. I want to be aware of everything that's going on all the time. I just want to know everything and be able to control everything. I just want to be the ruler of all. I want to be omnipotent and omniscient. Is that too much to ask? Yes, it is. So I've been watching a bunch of videos, and I've learned about Finland and about this happiness thing, and about how there's various reasons why Finland is called the happiest place. I watched this Vice video about Finland and about how, you know, their vibe of Finland wasn't that everyone seemed very happy. Most of the time people were quiet, liked being by themselves, and maybe it shouldn't be called happiness. That shouldn't even be the index or whatever it is, whatever the study is. It should be about being content. It's more about dealing with the problems of the world in a reasonable way, I guess, than being really happy all the time, you know? But then there's another question to answer, not just why are people happy despite being in cold places, but why are they in the cold places in the first place? Why did societies decide to grow in a place where it was so terrible for a long part of the year? And someone pointed out in a Quora question answer that I found, several things like resources are more available. Certain resources are more available. Water, like the availability of water, is a crucial part of developing a civilization, especially early days before technology, especially being able to pipe water in from far away places. Just the availability of it nearby. In cold places, water is very available. And then, yeah, you'd have to shelter yourself from the cold, but there's usually in cold places plenty of resources for that. Plenty of wood to burn and build structures. Plus, you know, if I put myself in the shoes of someone going to a cold place, you spend, I don't know, 5 years trekking across the land, sailing across the water, trying to discover a place to settle down, and you finally find a place in the summer, and you're like, yes, this is it, guys, we did it. And then you settle down, build your little hut, and then the winter comes, and you're like, uh-oh, what did we do? And then you find ways to survive it. You get some wood, You burn some fires. You get some animal hide to keep yourself warm. And figure out how to continue to have a good supply of food by hunting, I guess, because you can't really grow things. And if you succeed and you get through it, you could be like, okay, let's get the crap out of here. Or you could be like, we did it. We are awesome. That means we can do it again next season. And you might not even know how, you probably would know how the seasons work, right? And you'd probably know that if you go further south, it'd be warmer if you're a seasoned explorer. I don't know how common all this knowledge was back when these civilizations were starting. But if you didn't know those things, then I could see just sticking around and trying to survive. But if you did know those things, I could also see you sticking around and trying to survive because you feel awesome because you were able to do it. Back then, you didn't have video games as your way of feeling like you mastered something. But if you can master the seasons, if you can master the weather, I feel like that would make you feel awesome. Nowadays, I feel like it's more of a modern luxury to think like, oh, this weather doesn't suit me. I shall hop my air machine and hover over to warmer pastures. You know, you can quote me on that. I think, well, don't quote me. I feel like that's a quote. I think that, I don't know, Mark Twain said that. I don't know. Verbatim. Anyway, just theorizing here. I think that's a good reason why, there's probably several good reasons why civilization started in the cold. Even though, when you think about it on the surface, it's like, why would anyone ever do this? But then there's the other reason why people like winter. Another reason, a pretty good reason, is that's where they grew up. It's just what they know. You know, this is what I know. I don't want to live in a place that's warm all the time. I don't even know what would I be like in that situation. So there's several reasons why, you know, you would want to live in a cold place. It's just, I'm constantly like, it's -9 outside. It feels like -20. I want to move. I feel that way. I've felt that way every winter that I've experienced for the past, I don't know, 10 years. And we did move to Austin for a year and a half. And it was great. I enjoyed looking at pictures of people back at home in February and being like, ha ha, no. I'm mildly concerned about your suffering, but I'm glad I'm not in it. You can quote me on that as well. And yet we moved back. Family reasons. Being close to family. We had a daughter who we wanted close to her grandparents. We wanted to buy a house and be in but we didn't want to. We wanted it to be a reasonably affordable house and be in a good city. Madison's a good city. But still, when winter rolls around, I start thinking, what have we done? So now I'm looking to the Nordic countries for answers. I think the video, why do people like living in cold places, is going to be, initially I thought it might be sort of like I do some research, I do a list, but I'm thinking I might want to try to gather a lot of interviews with friends and family. Maybe I could throw in an expert interview or two if I can find them. But just having several interviews and having them talk about why, rather than having me spout out the information off the top of my head. Because in general, I find that that's just more interesting content for me to watch. When I'm watching YouTube videos, I enjoy more of a documentary format where it's interviews with people and their natural, off the cuff ideas about things, rather than a scripted host spouting out info nuggets, you know. So I'll probably have a balance of both, but for this video. But I would like to find several interviews. I can think of a lot of friends who will probably say I think a lot of people are going to say a lot of the same things, like, this is where I grew up, this is what I know, which is fine. That reinforces the idea. Or people would say, I like the change of the seasons. I can always bundle up. I can't take off more clothes in hot weather. True. But that's only if that's the alternative. If you're going to, it's either winter or a hot place. But there's also medium places. There's places that are mostly just temperate all year round, kind of perfect weather most of the year. Those places tend to have everywhere you go is going to have its own issues. Like if you go, LA is pretty moderate weather all year round. Occasionally gets hot. They got earthquakes. You got to drive everywhere in LA. But you can go to San Diego. You go to other places in Southern California. It's more typically more expensive. You can go to Hawaii, the perfect weather usually. But then if you want to go anywhere else, you have to fly off the island and Jack, we never should have left the island. Someone will say to you. That's from Lost. Still, I can think of worse places to live than Hawaii. Also probably more expensive. But I think you can excuse around all day about where you want to live or where you don't want to live. I think what it most of the time probably comes down to is just it's what you know. Or your job made you go there. I don't know. Guys. I'm just making this up as I go. But that's why I think it'll be more interesting to get just fresh interviews. Interviews from fresh people. Fresh ideas. Fresh. I don't know if it'll be fresh. Just interviews from people who are off the cuff saying things. Because I don't think there is a real answer to this question. It's very complicated. And I think you gain more insight into it by figuring out multiple points of view of it around it. So in general, most of these why do people like videos I do, I feel like I should flood them with interviews. But then again, then my face is in the video less, and I love my face, and my ideas. No, I feel like the only time that I should host, the only time my host segment should be in a main channel video is when I'm explaining, like, I guess exposition, just sort of like giving definitions, giving cold hard facts, see what I did? Or transitioning from one topic to another, or being funny. I think those are the only reasons to have the hosting segment in my main channel videos. Maybe there I can think of exceptions. That would be other reasons, but I don't. But pretty much that. Keep it at a minimum. Unless I can't get interviews, unless I can't get a lot of interviews, or they fell through or something, and I need to. Then I guess I would try to give my own ideas. But if it's, and then yes, I could also give my own opinion and my own ideas about a thing. But if it's only my ideas over and over, then it would be like this. And who wants this? Am I right? Wheezy Mondays? Obviously, you do if you're still watching. But I think it can be a bit much for a lot of people. What am I going to title this video? This is a tough one. I guess I'll figure it out. I had an idea about something else I wanted to talk about that I haven't really gotten to, and we are well into this video now, so I don't know if I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll save it for next video. I kind of wanted to talk about the idea of content, making content, having experiences because you want to share them online rather than just having experiences for experiences themselves. I feel like that's a good topic that I constantly think about, like why people just do things so they can get a good Insta picture rather than just doing things to enjoy doing things. But then there's also the question of whether like the act of doing the thing, the intrigue about it is because you know others will enjoy it, or because a lot of people enjoy it. And the sharing of it is part of the experience. You know, it's not a one-to-one, or it's not an opposite. They're not necessarily opposing things. Doing something to share it versus doing something for the something itself. There's a little overlap there. The fact that you are going to share it is part of the intrigue of doing it. You do something so you have a story to tell later, you know. But sometimes, especially because of social media, that can get very out of whack. And you could really go all in on the sharing and forget that you also should enjoy it yourself. Anyway, that's probably something I'll talk about next time, because I blathered on about who knows what this time, about living in cold places. Happy Wheezy Monday. This is where my mind's at. Where's your mind at? A reminder that there's a Wheezy Waiter Discord called Wheezy House. I'll link to an invite down there. And I do these kind of videos every single weekday on Patreon for patrons. Is there anything else? There's still the Wheezy Scholarship on bold.org. Wheezy Creator Scholarship. Link that down there. And here's a dog. Hey, Birdie. Birdie. Birdie bird. Birdie bird.